Welcome back to the Insights in Action podcast. To my right is Matt Christian.
Mm-hmm.
My other right, Dr. Johnny, don't call me Dr. Pierce.
That's me.
And I'm Craig James.
This is the OG right here. Just the three of us sitting around talking about psychologically related things. And I think today what we kind of brainstormed for a while about, settled on, was personal responsibility, personal accountability. Where do these things show up, or where are they absent?
Yes, you're asking too much.
Always.
What made the topic come up in your mind? What was it that, because you had mentioned it seemed like it's something you've been thinking about.
It's something that I see across different levels. So like I love my clients, and I think that one of the biggest areas of growth that they end up having by the time we're done working with each other is that they are so much better at turning it around and doing this. Because this is easy. Notice no work going on here, but this right here, that's where the work is. And they'll find themselves in the same situations they were in before they started working with me, and they'll get so much better at identifying their part and the conflict with their spouse, or the confusion with their children, or if something happens in a work setting, whatever the case may be. And absent that, which typically starting the therapy process is just not there, there's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of this person needs to be different, this person needs to be better, and that person's almost always someone that's not them. And in the case of an individual who has a spouse, I end up finding that I'm doing couples therapy. I just got an empty seat. Because they tell me about the spouse and how the spouse isn't doing this, isn't doing that, doesn't care, doesn't love them, or isn't respecting them. And I start asking questions, and pretty soon it becomes clear that the spouse may not be perfect. They're not. But the client ain't perfect either. And the client can then actually start making some changes in how they interact with their spouse, and they find that they kind of welcome their spouse into a different relationship.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, we all work with different clients individually. You and I do a lot more couples. We also do family work. And that's the piece, is what's my responsibility to this relationship, or to the status of the relationship, right? Think about the clients you see that come in and, as Johnny indicated, are finger pointing, and we ask why. And I see a lot of that too. So,
Yeah. And it's a real perennial wisdom behind it as well. Of like, when we look at what do the wisdom traditions that have been passed down to us, what are some of the things that they really highlight? Like when you look at something like stoicism, for example, one of the key insights, and then this was brought into cognitive behavioral therapy and some modern thinking as well, is this differentiation between like, what are the things that I can control and I can't control?
It's real simple.
I think that's a part of the Serenity Prayer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is also drawing on these like deep wisdom traditions. There's a reason some of these things stand the test of time, is because they work. And also things like in the Buddhist tradition, where it's like the emphasis is placed on what's happening and how one's attending to their own mind. Like that's the driver of one's reality, versus what you're talking about of looking at all of these external things and blame, and someone else might be doing something quote unquote right or wrong or not, but like where do we have the agency to take it, to do something?
That's a key element for me. I understand that we have all been encouraged from a very, very young age that somebody's got to be to blame. If you get in trouble at school, they ask who started it. If you get in trouble at home, same kind of question gets asked. You think about the legal system. The legal system is all about kind of who is responsible for this in this way. Like, responsibility equals blame in many of these cases. And what you just highlighted is what I end up doing a lot in my work, which is moving the conversation away from a blame. Like, responsibility is not for the purpose of blame. It's for the purpose of, okay, how do I become an agent of change in my life? Because if it's someone else's responsibility, then I'm always going to sit in the seat of the victim, which is a very comfortable seat. But it's a bit limiting, because if it's always someone else's fault, how do things get better? Well, they got to get better, but I don't have any control over them getting better. They don't actually owe me to get better. I might want them to owe me to get better.
So maybe I need to cut them out of my life altogether.
Oh, yeah, that's
awesome.
awesome.
The next person, then that happens. I need to cut them.
Oh, yeah. We start slicing away, because that's also the message that we wanted to touch on too, which is, what is our field telling people about being accountable and responsible? Because our field today has moved into this place of, If something happens to you, which things are constantly happening to you because you are not an agent in your own life, then there's someone to blame for it. And the way to deal with them is to get rid of them or to highly limit them through the use of your good old boundaries that makes it where they practically can't do anything.
Well, I think that's what we see. So whether it's agency and responsibility, awareness about, hey, I'm a parent, what I want from my kid, and how do I let my kid work through those issues, right? How do I let them become aware? How do I let them be responsible? Their struggles are not my responsibility. Their struggles are not, I fail them, right? So what I ask parents, and I think I've said this before in our other podcast, I'll say to parents, what is your tolerance for your child's distress?
Oh my goodness, what a great question.
Your kid is allowed to struggle. Let them struggle. What does that mean for you? What's happening inside? I need you to be aware of that so that you can respond differently versus responding emotionally. I would like for you to understand what's happening so you can respond with logic. Right? There's nothing wrong with responding with emotion, but you can be emotionally hijacked.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my God, I thought my kid was going to be this or that. And so it can happen with parents and children. It also happens in relationships, whether it's marital, work, those things play out. And then, as we say, what happens to our field, we start using self-jargon language.
The self-help jargon.
Oh, self-help. I'm like, oh my goodness, really? Red flags. What does that mean? Boundaries.
Flag on the play.
Yeah. So we throw all these terms, and what people aren't being taught is it's not about them. What does that behavior say about me? That's what I want people to look at.
Wasn't
what
there
am I
an
learning?
old saying or something that said, whatever bothers you about others is something you haven't settled within yourself or something
Something like
along
that.
those lines? And there is some definite truth to that. I mean, we're not talking about the gross things in life where somebody is just outwardly overly rude to other people because that's just the way that they kind of function in the world. We're not talking about those kind of outlier behaviors that people do that as soon as they do it, we all know like something's going on with this person and we need to.
And can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
I think this brings up an interesting point I was actually thinking of is I think often we take quote unquote responsibility for things that are kind of inappropriate for us to take responsibility for. So what
The
I mean, I'm trying
happiness
to think
of
of the
others.
best way for the happiness of them. I'm even thinking of like certain experiences we've had. Like I'm thinking with people who've been like abused as children or something where it's like they internalize a responsibility for that. There's something wrong with me that caused this or whatever it may be.
Developmentally why that happens though, right?
It often gives a sense of control to the kid.
Right. Right.
Explain
So
how that would work.
If you think about it, it makes so much sense. It's kind of scary. So the littlest people, the people who are fresh to the planet and learning how to be humans, they actually feel like they have a lot of control. They are mom for a time. Like mom is no different than me. Mom is an extension of me. It takes time to come to that place where
differentiated from the parent yet.
right. It takes time for that to develop. That there's a I and there's a you. But even when I make that distinction, I still haven't quite let go of that control. So when something happens, it happens because I did something. That's why you'll have the kid that drops the thing on the floor over and over again to see your different reactions. I'm controlling you. But then if something goes wrong, and sadly, a lot of kids have this experience where something goes wrong, a parent's absent, someone hurts them, friend of the family does some harm, or whatever the case may be. The only person who could possibly have controlled this was me. Because I'm still at a developmental stage where I'm in control of everything. Everything revolves around me. The world is my oyster. And unfortunately, in those cases, it kind of gets locked in that I must be responsible for these bigger things that I did not have control over because my mind can't process that I don't have control. But then we get older and we start pushing that out. We start pushing that out in a way that gets really, really problematic. So now I've got to behave a certain way in order for mom or dad to be happy. I got to behave a certain way in order for me to have friends. And I'm losing myself in the process because I don't really have a self anymore. I went from being the all-encompassing self to now no self. Because if they don't like me, I don't exist.
And the younger we are, particularly when there's some kind of threat coming from within the family, within the attachment figures, it becomes a real problem that needs to be solved. Because this is a survival problem. As human beings, we're so vulnerable as young it's something that's pretty unique to our species, I think, of just how vulnerable we are when we're young, how reliant we are on these caregivers. So when there's an issue with that too, it's like, this is a real problem that has to be solved. And so like, if I can make it my fault in some way, well, then maybe I can do something. Maybe I can be the good kid. I can be whatever, and I can make this work. Because if I can't do anything, then it's like, I'm really effed. Like, this is a real problem.
Now you get hopelessness.
Well, you create those protective factors. So you think it's about me. I'm controlling it. I create this persona to be safe. And I actually was talking to a client recently about this. As we talked about some upbringing challenges, and he created this persona about himself. And I said, I wonder when you didn't need the persona anymore. And we kind of concluded the moment you created it, you didn't need it. But you had to create it to survive in that environment, which was appropriate, but you never knew when to let it go. So every environment became that environment growing up.
Craig, you're touching on a point that I say often. Everyone has to overcome their childhood. It doesn't matter if you had the pristine parents, the two-parent home. It doesn't matter if you had the great siblings. Like, we all have to overcome our childhood in some way, because that frame for how the world is, or how you can function in it, it's not going to be able to translate across all the scenarios that we end up in life. Life works best when we can be flexible, when we can adapt and we can adjust, when we can assess that, you know what, that worked over here and was really good for me, but I need to shed that now, because now it will hold me back and become a barrier to my success. We don't often think about it that way or talk about it that way, but we are shedding things over time. Like, we pick up knowledge and experience, but we also have to shed things because they no longer function in our lives the same way, and they don't help us anymore.
And I think, and tell me if you agree, I think a part of what you're saying, of everyone has to kind of overcome their upbringing or their childhood, I think an important part of that, and this goes to kind of this personal responsibility, blaming others or not, is the finding the humanity in the parents or the caregivers who maybe did fail you in some way or whatever. And again, it's not it's getting out of the whole, is someone right or wrong, or excusing behaviors, but seeing their own life story. Where did some of these things come from them? And finding, again, it's not, okay, well, then it was okay for them to treat me this way or not.
No.
But finding the humanity in it, and finding maybe some of those things you don't like about them, you can find them in yourself as well. And the compassion and humanity in yourself. And then it's like, okay, now I can kind of grow and live my life. And I'm no longer a victim of circumstances.
Because if you don't do it, you become the thing you despise.
Almost always.
My parents were this, my parents were that, and I didn't overcome it. I'm doing it, maybe not to that degree, but I'm actually playing that out.
Got my own remix. Oh, yeah. I say this too about, you talked about we do family work. I love working with families. I've gotten a nice size caseload now of working with, preteens and, just younger kids than I would usually work with. But my kind of prereq for that is, hey, it's got to be family therapy. I want to be able to see mom, dad. I want to be able to see siblings. I want us to all kind of work. And I don't see everybody all at once all the time, but I see people regularly enough to get a context for this child's experience, and to help those who are, the executives, the parents, to see that, hey, you're creating this person's experience. You picked where you live. You picked what school they go to. You picked these things. These are things that are going to shape this person, understand that connection. But in understanding that connection, you had talked about earlier, people becoming what their parents did this and their parents did that, and they don't understand why their parents did that and they didn't like it, but now they're doing it. Well, we do what we learn. We are learning beings. So if my parents parented in a certain way, then I'm more apt to parent that way, even if I didn't like elements of it. I'm going to maybe try to remix it a little bit, but I need to be aware of, I'm doing that thing that my mom did. I'm just doing it my way. And I'm thankful that I became a parent in my 30s. Had I become a parent in my 20s, I would have been a terrible dad. Maybe I'm a terrible dad now. Have to check with the girls. But I would have attempted to be the father to my child that I never had.
Right.
Because I had an absent father. Now, as a 30-year-old, now about to be a 40-year-old, I'm attempting to figure out, how do I be the best dad to my children, the people they are, not the person that I was, not the little kid that didn't get his experience. Who are these little people, and what do they need from me? That's a different approach to parenting, and I think it's one that we got to embrace, because these new people don't have our trauma unless we give it to them. Whatever your trauma is as a parent.
And that's why therapy can be helpful. One reason why therapy can be helpful too, because it's often not easy to see that we're doing that.
Right.
It doesn't. And if someone, and a good kind of barometer of it is how defensive we feel if someone implies that we might be. You know what I mean? If someone's like, oh, you're kind of doing that thing that whatever your parent, whoever did, and we're like, what do you mean?
I'm nothing like them.
Might be something like
maybe.
Yeah.
Doesn't pass the smell test.
Well, we speak about this in different forms. What brings folks to see us? What are you trying to work through? What's the challenge that you're having, right? Is it a responsibility issue? Is it a blame problem? Where are you? And what is our profession doing to help people work past those challenges versus getting stuck and just highlighting those problems? Because that I see a lot. Like, I think you said this, and I thought about this recently. People say, well, I'm in therapy. I'm doing the work. And it was like, well, when you go to the gym, you don't tell people you're going to the gym. We just see it. Right?
Hey, man.
You don't tell anybody you're working out.
a great
we
analogy.
just see it. So when you're going to therapy, why are you promoting I'm doing the work? And it's like,
listen.
why are you telling
really
me
like
you're doing
that.
the work?
Because one thing I was thinking actually on the way over here was, because it gets talked about a lot of like coping skills. We got to build up this tool chest of coping skills, and some of these are very helpful things, and things that I might work with people with. But it's like this is the analogy that came to mind for me, and this is like the most American analogy because it's war, it's death, it's fighting. It's like
There you go.
Jesus, dude.
Bang.
But the analogy that came to mind is, okay, we have this discomfort that's coming up. I'm using anxiety mainly here. This discomfort that's coming up in our lives, and then it's like, okay, so now we're at war with this thing. In this case, it's the anxiety. So I have to, and so the anxiety has its army, its arsenal, which would be things like the worry, the
Dread,
the worry, the dread, the increased heart rate, the staying up at night, thinking about things, researching all this stuff, whatever it might be. That's
doom scrolling.
Yes, that's the anxiety's arsenal and its soldiers. And then on my side, okay, then I got whatever form that might take. It might take working all the time. It might be drinking. It might be
meditation.
It could even be meditation used in this way. It could be all kinds of things, or sex or whatever. And then it might be after times like, ooh, some of the stuff I'm doing to fight this war might not be the healthiest thing. So now let me go to therapy. And then, okay, so now the therapist will give me healthier, more effective, will give me bigger bombs to use in this war against the anxiety. So maybe all of these different little coping skills or something. But then over time, it's like, I don't ever really seem to be winning this war.
Nope.
And I think coming to the heart of it being like, then when we get close enough to the enemy and really see what the enemy is, the anxiety in this case and everything that comes with it, is we can't win the war because we see the quote unquote enemy's army that we're fighting is actually our own soldiers. It's our own weapons, it's our own soldiers, and it's our own soldiers that are following the orders we gave us. It's our brothers and sisters, because it's our nervous system trying to protect us. It's trying to help us. These are the strategies that we've developed to try to help ourselves. And so we're fighting against that, and we're never actually facing what the actual quote unquote enemy would be, which might be something like, I don't feel like I'm good enough, and if people in my life find out about this, they'll leave me. So we spend our whole lives fighting this whole other war and then wonder why it's not working. And sometimes the coping skills, the weapons to fight this war, can just become part of that same problem.
Well, they take you further and further away from that truth.
Because because here's a simple question. What's the anxiety telling you?
That's why I love that question you use so much.
You gotta listen. You gotta listen, and you gotta go ahead and put your ear in there and listen. And too often, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. It's not telling me anything. It's making me uncomfortable. So it's about what it's making you do. You haven't even given it a chance to give you the message. Emotions are bits of data that give you information about your relationship with the world around you. They are not the enemy. They are not the problem. You can be raging, frustrated, upset, angry, all that good stuff. If you know what to do with it, how to use it, you can rule the world. You can conquer things. because emotion is simply giving you a hint of data, just a little bitty piece of data about where you are in relation to the world around you.
Well, I think that I love the analogy about it.
Yeah, that was intense.
I like that.
I heard the battle drums.
Yeah. I started.
I'll add those in post.
Wakanda. But it's interesting because you talk about the anxiety and the war, and then what does our profession do? We talk about coping skills, and to me it's a catchphrase because I'm like, what does that mean? This person have coping skills? No, they do. How about we just teach them and sit with them in it because they actually have the skill.
Oh yeah.
How do you know they have the skill? Because
they
start to
breathe.
Well, because Matt just said they have the skill because they start to fight. That's a skill. They're just fighting the wrong fight.
And to me, the differentiation I'm making is because the coping skills aren't good or bad.
No.
Some of them can be very helpful.
Right.
But it's like, what are they being used for?
Symptom
are
reduction.
Are they being used to fight this war against the anxiety, using the anxiety example? Or are they being used as ways to help myself regulate myself enough to be able to face the thing I don't want to face? So are they used as part of the avoidance war, or are they used to build some kind of capacity and to actually
To draw nearer.
elicit some kind of change?
Yeah.
So I think that's, to me, the differentiation.
Which is personal responsibility. Back to how we started.
Yeah. Yeah. But what you're hinting at is something that's a part of there's this really simple version of psychology that I knew existed. I knew it existed. When I went to undergrad and learned about all the different theories out there, I was like, this seems complicated. Went to grad school. I'm 3 years into the program of a doctorate program. I'm still like, it's got to be a simpler version of this that everybody, that's kind of universal that everybody can kind of connect with. And I'm sitting in a seminar and a guy writes SPO on the board. Dr. Paul Rasmussen. I'll give you a proper shout out. Adolescent aficionado. He put some arrows between the S and the P that they go both ways. So the S is affected by the P is affected by the S, and then an arrow that points to the O. So what does this stand for? Stress, personality, and outcome. Stress and personality shape each other. What stresses us is a big part of who we are. Who we are is largely shaped by what stresses us. Now, we may not be able to articulate that without some assistance, but ultimately these things have a relationship. And whatever their relationship is, it leads to some type of outcome. And healthy outcomes, or where there's wellness, we overcome the stress based on who we are. When there's illness, which isn't seen as a negative in this situation, this isn't a positive, negative kind of thing. This is the logical way this will play out. When we don't overcome stress, we get illness. And, naturally we're talking about psychology. So you mentioned anxiety. You mentioned something like anger. You mentioned something like depression. These are kind of like the big three that we often end up talking about. When you get those phone calls to figure out who's going to work with us, this is usually what they're talking about. Well, these things that we call illness have certain things associated with them based on our personalities. How we think about it. We think about anxiety as, I can't handle this. We think about anger, I shouldn't have to handle this. We think about depression, I've done everything I can do and it's hopeless. How we act. Well, we avoid things that we're anxious about. We lash out when we're angry. And we do nothing. We just kind of fall flat. We feel paralyzed when we're depressed. And then, of course, the feelings that go along with it. Well, naturally, anxiety goes with anxiety, anger goes with anger, and depression goes with depression. So you start to use this very simple version of psychology to kind of work in reverse. Okay, I got to get back to the stress somehow. Somehow I got to get back to the stress. And when we get to the stress and we see that the stress is what it is, this thing that we're avoiding or we're lashing out against or we're taking no action against because we can't, we believe it's insurmountable, that's where the key to wellness ends up being. How do I actually sit with this and work with this to get the healthy or well outcome?
Well, I think the question we get to ask is, how do we help clients figure out what's theirs and what's not theirs?
I like that.
Yeah. Think about that, right? People show up to see us looking at a stressor.
Is that yours?
Is it yours? Think what's going through your head.
No, I like that framing. What's yours and not yours? Go on. Yeah, please.
No, it's something we get to do because however we want to say it, we've weaponized so much in society.
Yeah.
That we take on things that aren't ours, make them our responsibility. They're not ours.
And we displace things on the others that aren't theirs.
And then we feel guilty for feeling the way we feel. I'm not supposed to say that. No, you should have said that. Why? Because that was your first impulse. I didn't say you had to act on it, but it's okay how you feel.
Right.
So I think that's part of it is what's yours, what's not yours. Why do you make things yours that aren't yours? Whether that's a component you learned.
What would
in
an
childhood.
example be? Can you think of an example of what you're talking about? Because I think this is something that's very powerful.
I'll think the simple one that just comes to mind really quickly is parenting. My child is in school, middle school, high school, and they're not doing academically what I think they should do. And I get involved. I'm on the school's website looking at grades. I'm looking at attendance. I'm calling the teachers. I'm involved to a point thinking it's my responsibility. And I don't sit back and let my kid deal with it. Because, well, Craig, their future. You mean today? No, their future. No, today is their future. Today is yesterday's future. And if we keep doing it, we're just getting in the way. Right? That's the thing. The first thing that comes to mind is
I think it's a great example.
It's not mine. And I need to let you figure it out, because that's when you figure out what you're capable of.
And so what would you say to, maybe a parent or someone who is like, yeah, well, it's helpful though to be involved in, and I think this is objectively true on some level, that it's helpful to be involved in the academic life of my kid.
Most definitely.
So what are you talking about, Craig? Just let my kids fail? Did anything they can do that they want? Should they eat ice cream all night?
It could be helpful.
I'll give a personal example.
Yeah.
So, my oldest child, bright, brilliant, excellent reader, picks up anything that I actually get her to like concentrate on for a little bit. She's awesome. She is such a good reader that when she got a B in reading, I was shocked. Her mother was shocked. We didn't understand it. So the first time she got a B, I'm like, okay, well, buddy, did you put forth your best effort? She says no. Because we've talked about this. We talked about putting forth your best effort. I'm not concerned about the grades. I want the effort. Because you can control effort. You may not be able to control grades. Second card marking comes back around. She gets a B in reading. I said, okay, what happened this time? Did you put forth your best effort? I think I did. Okay. So did you ever end up talking to the teacher to find out why was you got the B? No. Oh, well then, buddy, you didn't put forth your best effort. You got something that you didn't expect, and you didn't go inquire about why you got that. So how could you have possibly worked on it to get it to be better if you didn't know what you were working against? Oh. 2 weeks passed. Have you talked to your teacher yet? No. Okay. Third card marking comes around. We got to be in reading. So I said, did you ever end up asking the teacher why you got the B? No. Well, whenever you're ready to do that, go ahead and do that. She comes back a day later. Oh, well, she said it was because of this. Oh, I wonder if you could have worked on that and fixed that if you hadn't known that's what the issue was. Now I'm pretty confident when we finished up this card marking for this last school year, because we're going to sixth grade now. We're a rising sixth grader now. I got to get used to that. We're going to middle school. Oh, yeah. We didn't get a B in reading. No, because we learned what it was that we needed to make a change in. Now, I, as a parent, I could have reached out to the teacher. I picked this girl up. I picked this girl up every other day. I've gone to the school. I was there for career day. I missed our team meeting so I could be at career day. I've met these people before, but it was not my job.
You want kids to be therapists?
I mean, maybe. But it was not my job to get the answer, because I'm not the one in the classroom. I'm not the one who's getting the grade. I got all my grades. Great grades, by the way.
But you are involved, though, and I think that's the difference, because is with what you're saying. But you're also you're involved. You're part of your kid's education, and you're signaling to your kid a culture within your family and your relationship with them that this is important.
Right.
But you're not taking the responsibility of it, like what you're talking about. So I think that's the key difference, because just the hands off, go to school or don't go to school kind of thing.
Yeah, this is not laissez-faire. This is not permissive.
Right.
Yeah. Right. We care about these things, but if we're going to instill in our children that they should care about it, then we actually have to give them the opportunity to demonstrate the care.
Well, because what we're talking about is allowing them to develop the competence, the skills, the ability to advocate for themselves, to have a conversation with an adult, right? To ask questions. to get the information they need and then learn from it. That's what I encourage parents to do is you should be involved, but age appropriate. At what point, when, how, what do you do? And what's your theory behind the level of involvement you're having? Right? Why? All behavior makes sense in context, but we need to understand the context. I'm not here to say what you're thinking is right or wrong, but are those expectations and conditions age appropriate? Right?
And it goes back to the personal responsibility part you're talking about, and what's your tolerance for your kids' distress?
Oh yeah.
Because also often the hard question is, am I doing some of these things? This goes to your theory of the case kind of thing. Am I doing these things because I think this is ultimately going to be the most helpful thing, or am I doing these things because it helps quell my own anxiety about my kid and their life and their future?
Got to call a spade a spade. How often is it that?
Is this about my own anxiety, or is it about something else?
Because anxiety is a real thing, and at some level, it's appropriate. We should have some.
Yes.
We need to have some.
Yes.
And we need to listen to it and ask it and understand it. But at a certain point, it's problematic. And we
Right.
see it.
And it's normally problematic when it's disproportionate to the amount of responsibility you actually have in a situation. You know, if I'm anxious about this unknown future that goes far, far out, will I die alone? Or, you know, will this person like me?
Technically,
Whatever
yes.
the case. Yes, everybody dies alone. Everybody's born alone. Unless you're a Siamese twin, you came out by yourself. So you're going to go out by yourself. It's okay. Even if you died on a plane where there was a bunch of other passengers, you would only experience your death. It'll be okay.
Have a good night, everyone.
It'll be okay.
Any other terrible ways of death you want to describe to us, Johnny?
You know, I don't know.
Any torture scenarios,
What's the
or-
last Final Destination movie? I haven't seen it yet. Hopefully, it's on a streamer soon because I definitely want to see it. But no, in all seriousness, we tend to be so avoidant of things that really are demanding our attention in a way that would benefit us. Like those questions about what makes you special and what makes you somebody that people should connect with. These are questions you should probably look into. But if you only respond to how it makes you feel to think about what makes you special, well, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to think about it. Well, now you don't get the knowledge and you don't grow in any way. Because if you didn't know what made you special or what you felt was important to you, like how do I succeed? How do I thrive? And you look into it, well, guess what? Then you start to succeed and thrive because this is something I could do now.
I will say, with that, there is an element of hope. Right? So when we talk about personal responsibility, it actually, I'm happy about it in some respect because I'm hopeful that people are trying to pivot from seeing the world through a lens of problems and growth. Right? That's, I would say, what percentage of our people come in to not just to see us in the group, but just therapy as a whole with the intent to grow. Right? That's the hope I have for why they show up.
Yeah.
I want them to show up with the idea of growing. And sometimes I've actually had to say to people, hey, this isn't therapeutic. It's a life experience. And while I want you to stay in the room with me, this isn't the time for therapy. What do you mean, Craig? You got to go out and have some life experience. There's this word called resilience that we all hear about. It's a great word, but to develop resilience sucks.
Again, you got to
'Cause
overcome.
Right. So go out, go try some things, and then come back. Give yourself 6 months, a year, 2, 3 years. See what life can offer you before you show up in therapy. Like I was talking to a young lady that I'm working with recently who been giving a decent number of diagnoses. And I'm meeting with her. This is our second meeting. And she's telling me what's happening. And I said, when did all of this start? 12, 13. I said, okay. And, I went to this program and they said this and I was doing this. I said, well, I'm glad you're here. I said, but I wonder if what you're really describing is puberty. She goes, I've heard of puberty. I go, and then we had a conversation about puberty. And she's like, oh my God, this is making sense. I go, yeah, this isn't.
Right.
Go ahead.
I had acne and being attracted to two girls, but not knowing how to talk to them disease. Yeah.
This is puberty.
Disorder, yeah.
But like, listen, when you start to pathologize the common things and make things that are pathological common, then that's where we end up.
Yeah.
That's where we've ended up. We have normalized pathology and we have pathologized normality, and it is terrifying, the consequences, because every kid is going to have ADHD, everybody's bipolar, every woman is borderline, every man is narcissistic. Like, that's just the way it is. And now we got to deal with the red flags, because red flags are definitely going to be a big part of this. And we got to find the green flags, and we got to cut everybody out with all our good boundaries, and we got to weaponize our trauma, and we got to use all the jargon.
Boy, he's throwing them out there.
All the jargon. We got to use it all. And then we got to go to war. And it's like, man, this sounds hard. This sounds terrifying. This sounds overwhelming just thinking about it. I wonder if it could be simpler.
I'm hopeful.
And, Matt, you've talked about this before, and, we've vibed on this. This is something we actually connected over when we first met each other. So you talked about Buddhism. You talked about the role that it plays in your life and how it's helped you. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things about Buddhism is the Dharma wheel. Mm-hmm. And it's just the next right thing. Just time and time again, you're just trying to do the next right thing. And I'm very slow to do the right, wrong thing, good, bad thing, all that stuff. But when it's saying right, in the way I interpret it, is what's going to move me closer to wellness. Mm-hmm. So if I am feeling anxious for whatever reason, the next thing for me to do is to listen to the anxiety's message. Mm-hmm. It's not to avoid it. That might make me feel better, but it's actually not going to be helpful. The next thing for me to do is to listen to the message. Then after I've heard the message, I have to determine what do I have control over and what don't I have control over. Mm-hmm. Now I'm looking to figure out what to do about what I have control over and how to accept the things I don't. So I'm getting into the serenity prayer. Mm-hmm. But each step of the way, I'm not forecasting out the 15 steps I got to do. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at what's in front of me in the moment.
And you said this is the Dharma wheel?
Yes, the Dharma wheel.
Oh. And the translation of these things into right livelihood.
I was about to ask Matt to speak on this.
It's like...
Oh, I was setting them up. That's live.
It's probably not the greatest translation, too, because that carries the connotation in our language of right versus wrong, or sin versus evil. It's really just referring to skillful versus not skillful.
Right.
Which is kind of what you're speaking to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Say that. Go back. Explain that again.
A lot of, like, with the Eightfold Path, and which is referring to the Dharma wheel and everything, it's the translation is usually there's these 8 things, and it's right this, right that, right whatever, right concentration, right. All
intention, action, livelihood, effort.
But so it's translated in that way, but that word right in English holds these other connotations of like a right versus wrong, or righteous versus not righteous, or something that isn't really
it gets into morality.
Part of intention. It's more something like skillful. It's right in the sense of like it's skillful, it's helpful to be doing this, to be living one's life in this way.
Right.
In the service of suffering less.
But ultimately, it turns you towards the thing. Whatever the thing is, it removes the mystery of it. It stops the avoidance. It turns you towards the thing. We can call it stress. We can call it anxiety. You can give it whatever name you need to give it for the functionality of it. But the main piece is I'm turning towards it and I'm addressing it. Now, I'm not addressing it for all time. It may return. I'm okay with that. If I addressed it before, I can address it again. If I do settle it for all time, then I remind myself later of the conclusion I came to so that I can carry forward. But ultimately, I'm overcoming, I'm growing, and I'm responsible for it. I'm the one that's got to do something right here. Or in some cases, the most responsible thing to do is to say, this isn't mine. When your partner comes to you and they complain about their happiness, listen, be loving, be caring, but then ask them, what are you willing to do so that you can have the happiness you're saying you lack? Because I don't believe
I'm willing
that I
to
can
walk away from you.
Then I guess you got to walk.
Hey, I'm willing to sleep in a different bedroom because you snore.
Let me get you some jail insoles for that journey you're about to go on. I guess you got to walk. Because if your happiness is hinging on whatever I'm doing, then that seems to set us both up for disaster.
You know what I'm thinking, actually, as I'm processing all this with you all, is like, I think an under, valued quality in our field is courage. because courage takes going towards something that's difficult. And that often can be accepting something about myself or my life, of like the courage to be like, this isn't what I wanted my life to be like, or this thing's happening that's just out of my control. And I need to just face this thing about myself. And the courage could be to have compassion for yourself and be like, all right, what do I want to do? How to like to move towards things. I think, because, and that's why, you know, the last thing I'll say about this stuff is like, I'm always hesitant in therapy when coming in and setting goals at first. If the goal is to feel better, if the goal is to stop feeling, if the goal is to feeling based, because I mean, there's something to it, but it's like, I always try to get to, well, what would your behavior look like if your goals were met?
How do we measure that?
How do we measure that? And what would like a meaningful, valuable life look like to you? Rather than the focus on the feeling good or not feeling good, that I think is often kind of a dead end.
I'm glad you said those two pieces, because it does take courage. It takes courage to ask for help. It takes courage to show up. Then it takes courage to look at what is going on and what do I have responsibility over. And I think goals are nice, but I think at times it puts the provider, us, working towards something, an outcome, when really it's process. Everything you just said, and I really appreciate that, it's a process to feeling better. It's a process to having well-meaningful life.
It's a process to becoming more skillful.
It's a process.
Practice makes perfect.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That was. I'm waiting for Matt to write a book.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's been cooking. Listen, if you haven't been following this man on social media, if you haven't been following the YouTube channel and
It's
things,
Insight into Action Therapy. Social media.
Matt's been cooking.
Stop it,
If you're
guys.
not on
Come
LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn just so you can go and see what Matt's cooking up, because he's on there too.
Stop it.
Matt
Stop it.
is
I say
cooking.
stop it. I want you to keep going, but I also want people to hear me saying stop it, so they know how humble I am. Go on. It sounds like you have something to say.
He said, he goes, enough about me. What do you think about me?
Yeah.
Well, Matt's been
This
cooking.
is so embarrassing, but go on. I don't want to interrupt.
The fact of the matter is, we are responsible as people who are putting together this podcast, as people who are service providers, as people who are attempting. I think we're all living this out in our own way. I don't hear any of us overly burdened by stuff that we don't have control over. And when we realize that we're doing that, as we're just having conversations in between sessions, or heck, yesterday we got to do something beautiful. We sat together and ate a meal to celebrate 10 years of Insight, people. Insight into Action Therapy, 10 years strong. Craig and Cindy started this a decade ago. I joined them about 4 years in. I don't know how long Matt's been here, but he's an elder statesman too.
7, 8, yeah.
So beautiful thing. We've done this and we're doing this and we're helping clients by being willing to, as therapists, not make their stuff ours.
Yeah.
I can't do it for my clients. Just like I couldn't do it for my oldest daughter when she couldn't figure out why she had the grade she had. I can encourage, I can support, I can identify things that maybe need some more attention. We can try to become more skillful. As therapists, as men, as people, we are working this out ourselves in our day-to-day lives.
That's for sure.
Don't need all the answers. For me, I personally like the grind. I probably have always been a process person. So everything that you just said, everything we've been talking about, it's all process, right? The outcome will be what it is.
Right.
I think when you look so hard at an outcome, you don't always appreciate the steps to get to where you end up. I think I said this before. If my outcome was supposed to be a perfusionist, I didn't end up there, but I'm where I'm supposed to be, right? My mom's a cardiac nurse, so I spent a lot of high school around cardiologists and nurses and things. So that's where I thought I was headed, but that's not where I ended up, and I'm not regretful of that.
No.
But it's process.
And a lot of these things that we're talking about and I'm talking about are things that have been difficult for me.
Yeah.
And that still at times are difficult for me.
Right,
You know,
right.
so it's
We don't sit here like we got it all figured out, and that's the
certainly
beauty
not
of it
coming
all.
from some super enlightened place. But what I will say, over time, things were very hard for me earlier in my life with some stuff, and it's certainly much different than it used to be. And a lot of that is just like not being as reactive anymore to like the changing tides within myself. And just having a lighter touch.
I was going to add, you just said very hard for me, right? But look at how you look back in the moment in your younger life, chaos. How do you look back on it now? How do you use it?
I mean, it's something that, in a lot of ways, one, it helps me to have compassion for other people who might be going through similar things in the ways, but, and also it's the experiences, but it's what I think is the most impactful for me is there was a certain point in my life where I made a very conscious decision to take a leap that was very scary and no one was pressuring me to do. And I finally got fed up enough that I took this leap that was terrifying for me and it put things on a different trajectory for me. So that's something that built up a kind of confidence in myself, or like something I can really hang my hat on in a different way than like I did well at something or whatever.
I got a
kind of
trophy.
Stuff. Yes, that it's like that's the thing. And there's been a few things like that in my life where taking like a leap into something that was very, very scary and knew would come with suffering, but I knew I needed it. Yeah,
it's courage,
and that goes for everyone. I'm not special in these ways.
No, but I think you look back on those experiences, right? And I think what I heard is I had courage to do it, and while in the midst in it, it sucked. I can look back on and still know it sucked, but I am a better man today because I went through the suck. Right? That's what I hear. And I think there's a lot more to it, but that's the thing I'm appreciative of.
The biggest piece about the courage aspect is courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absent awareness of like, this could go bad. That's not what courage requires. Maybe that's what bravery requires. I believe that those are two different things.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting
but
distinction.
Courage, I think you are keenly aware this could go bad. This could go very bad. And yet, that's my path forward. It's through the fire. It's through the hard time. It's through the thing that I don't want to do. It's through the difficulty. And I have to go through it if I want to get where I want to go. Shortcuts aren't going to do it.
So it reminds me of this term I heard years ago called spontaneous recovery.
Ooh.
Which is that people get better. Sometimes you get better going through treatment, right? With group, residential, da-da-da. And sometimes, which doesn't get talked about, people just wake up and go, I'm done.
Well, we don't get paid for that version.
It's okay.
That's why you don't hear about it.
I'm gonna cut that out.
But sometimes people just are tired of, I'm tired of being tired, and I'm making a decision today to do something different.
Fellas, I believe that we just landed the plane.
It sounds like it.
Hell of a way to end.
Yeah. Always appreciative of you two gentlemen.
Yeah, it's fun.
Likewise.
Yeah.